What happens when a man, at the height of his success, decides to step into the shoes of the people he employs, those who serve the guests, clean the rooms, and work tirelessly behind the scenes? What if, through the eyes of an outsider, he sees the truth about the way his hotel is running and the truth about the people he's worked so hard to keep on his side? This is a story of a man, a hotel, and the unspoken truths that lay buried deep beneath the surface. Let's dive in. The story begins in a bustling city where towering skyscrapers meet the open skies, and luxury hotels stand like pillars of success. Among these gleaming structures stood a hotel that had risen to prominence under the leadership of its owner, Gregory Lowe, a man who was admired for his sharp business mind and his uncanny ability to turn any venture into gold. Greg was not just a businessman, but a legend. To the world, he was a man of wealth and influence, a success story told over and over again in boardrooms and dinner tables. But despite his wealth, Greg had always felt something was missing. He had it all: success, money, and a sprawling business empire. But something gnawed at him, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. It was the people who worked for him. Yes, they worked hard, they followed the rules, and they smiled when asked to. But Greg couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Were they happy? Was the hotel as successful as it seemed on the surface? Were they truly appreciated, or just another cog in the machine? Greg decided to take a bold step, a step that would change everything. He decided to go undercover, not as a guest, not as a businessman, but as someone who had spent his life cleaning the floors, making the beds, and washing the dishes. He would pose as a janitor in his own hotel, working alongside his staff, doing the very things they did, to see the truth with his own eyes. The plan was simple. He would arrive at the hotel early in the morning, put on his janitor uniform, and immerse himself in the daily grind. No one would know who he was. No one would recognize the face behind the uniform. He was just another person doing the work that no one else wanted to do. It was a chilly Tuesday morning when Greg put on his faded blue overalls. He looked at his reflection in the mirror. His face, though still youthful, showed signs of the long hours and late nights spent building his empire. He could barely recognize the man staring back at him. His hands were rough, calloused from years of signing contracts and shaking hands, but now they would do the work of sweeping floors and emptying trash bins. Greg walked into the hotel's back entrance, past the main lobby, and into the staff-only area. He was greeted with a quick nod by some of the staff, who were too busy to notice anything unusual. His heart raced. This was it. The moment he had been preparing for, but never truly expected to come. The hotel was not as luxurious behind the scenes as it appeared to the guests. The long corridors smelled faintly of cleaning products, and the harsh fluorescent lights flickered intermittently. Greg spent the first few hours mopping the floors, sweeping the hallways, and picking up discarded napkins. He tried to blend in, but no matter how hard he tried, there was always a part of him that felt out of place. The other janitors, Paul, a quiet man in his mid-40s, Mark, a young guy just starting out, and Ben, a seasoned worker who had been at the hotel for over a decade, didn't seem to mind him. They were focused on their tasks, unaware of the true identity of the person beside them. It wasn't until lunchtime that Greg heard something that made his heart stop. He had been assigned to clean the staff break room. As he was wiping down the countertops, he overheard a conversation between Paul and Mark. "Did you hear about Greg's latest move? The hotel's about to cut our hours again," Paul said, shaking his head. "It's like they don't care about us. We're just here to make them look good." Mark, younger and perhaps more hopeful, tried to brush it off. "I heard the owner is doing his best. He just needs to make the hotel more profitable, right? We're in a tough market." Paul's voice was low, but it carried a note of frustration. "You think he even knows what it's like to work down here? To clean up after all the rich guests who don't even notice us? He doesn't care. He's up in his office, counting his money, while we're down here, doing all the dirty work. They don't even pay us enough to make it worth it." Greg stood frozen, the mop in his hand now forgotten. He could feel his heart tightening. This was what he had feared, the truth he hadn't wanted to face. He had spent so many years building his hotel, focusing on profits, numbers, and growth. But he had ignored the very people who made it all possible. Ben, overhearing the conversation, spoke up. "It's not just the money, Paul. It's the respect. We don't get any. They walk past us like we're invisible, like we're just tools for their convenience. And if we complain, we're out of a job, no questions asked." The words hit Greg harder than anything he had ever heard in his life. This was his hotel. These people worked tirelessly every day to make sure it ran smoothly. They were the backbone of his success, and yet they felt ignored, unappreciated, and disrespected. Greg's mind raced. How could he have missed this? How could he have been so blind to the very people who had helped him get where he was? The next few days passed in a blur. Greg continued his undercover mission, cleaning and working alongside his staff. He noticed the little things, the tired eyes of the workers who had been on their feet for hours, the subtle signs of stress on their faces as they tried to keep up with the demands of the hotel. But there was something else, too, a sense of camaraderie. Despite the long hours and the low pay, these people supported each other. They were a family of sorts, bound together by their shared struggles. It wasn't until Friday afternoon that Greg made the decision to reveal himself. He couldn't take it anymore. He had seen enough. He couldn't keep hiding behind the disguise any longer. He walked into the break room where the staff was gathered, taking their brief moments of rest. He stood there for a moment, collecting his thoughts before he spoke. "I'm not just some janitor," Greg said, his voice steady but full of emotion. "I'm the owner of this hotel." The room went silent. The staff members froze, their eyes wide with disbelief. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. Greg took a deep breath. "I've been working alongside you all this week, and I've seen the way you've been treated. I've heard the things you've said, and I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't realize what it was like for you. But I'm going to change that." Tears welled up in Paul's eyes as he looked at Greg. "You mean you really care?" "I do," Greg said, his voice breaking. "I care more than you know. I've been so focused on the business side of things that I forgot what really matters. You matter. You are the heart of this hotel, and I've been blind to that. But not anymore." The following months were some of the most challenging and rewarding of Greg's life. He made sweeping changes at the hotel, pay raises, better benefits, and most importantly, a renewed sense of respect for the staff. He held regular meetings with them, listened to their concerns, and worked alongside them to create a better work environment. The hotel began to thrive in ways Greg had never expected. It wasn't just about the profits anymore. It was about the people. And Greg realized that true success wasn't about building an empire. It was about building relationships and treating others with dignity and respect. As for the staff, they felt appreciated for the first time in years. They worked harder, smiled more, and found a renewed sense of pride in their work. And Greg, well, he learned a lesson that would stay with him forever. The true value of success is not in what you achieve for yourself, but in what you do for others. And so the story of Greg Lowe and his hotel became a story of redemption, a story of a man who went undercover to discover the truth and who came out on the other side a better leader, a better boss, and a better human being. And that's a lesson we all could stand to learn. That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. If you'd like to show some extra love, tap the 3 dots near the share button and send a super thanks.